And I do want to introduce our colleague, Matt Cougle, and he is the president of Cougle's Recycling. Is that correct?
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking a little bit about more about recycling and about Earth Day and some of the things that we can all do collectively to work together to further that cause. So I really appreciate your time and the interview, Bethany.
Oh, you're welcome. I do want to ask, Cougle's is a family business. How did your family decide that this was going to be your gig? You know, this was going to be your life's work.
Actually, it's an interesting story. My grandfather had started the business back during the World War II era. So he was working at the Bethlehem Steel, and during that time, as a manager, they asked them to go out into the community and in part to support the war and to do their civic duty to collect some of the needed materials to support the war. So he did tire drives, metal drives, paper, rags. So all of those things went into many different products that sort of supported that effort. So that was the initiation of his collection. And after the war came to an end, he was laid off, and he did that to supplement his income. So I'm now the third generation within the family, taking over the reins in regards to our recycling company. And thankfully, over time, we've expanded and morphed into doing different materials and different processes. But the premise was behind my grandfather starting to sort of help support the war effort and do the right thing for the environment at the same time.
Yeah, that's really amazing how it all got started. Wasting things is just not a good practice ever. So I do want to share, I stole this next picture actually from your website. And even though sometimes we'll complain about having to rinse out our soup cans or having to separate our trash into the recycling bin and then into what's going to be landfilled, it doesn't seem like we're necessarily doing a whole lot as an individual family, but look at what we do collectively. Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So these numbers that we're looking at that you had brought up, Bethany, are from the paper only that we recycled. And, you know, within that area of recycling, there's multiple other materials. So plastic and glass and tin and aluminum. So the numbers are pretty significant. And, you know, one of the neat things about recycling, beyond saving it from going into the landfill, we also save some significant natural resources. And one of them is water and oil. And so there's many different great aspects to it. Beyond keeping it out of the landfill, we're able to save some of our natural resources that ultimately won't be around as plentiful forever. So part of the biggest thing that we do here at the facility is when we accept material into our facility, we sort and separate it into individual commodity grades. So ultimately now it's easier than ever really to recycle with being able to put everything into one bin. So that's called single stream recycling. So ultimately your paper, your plastic, your glass, your tin, and your aluminum can all go together, which allows everyone to basically have a garbage bin and a recycling bin in their home. So it makes it very convenient. And the reason why we're able to do that is because of the extensive sorting that we do on the MRF level, which is a facility like ours, or a material recovery facility. So we sort out the glass, we sort the metal, we sort the aluminum, we sort the PET plastic, which would be like a soda bottle, the HDPE plastic, which would be like a milk jug, that natural, or the HDPE colored, which would be like a laundry detergent bottle. And some of the other grades that we sort out of the post-consumer recycling are increasing in the near future, which would include polypropylene and the aseptic carton containers. So ultimately, our driving goal is to pull as much of the material out of the landfill stream and also save those natural resources at the same time.
That's great. So I'm gonna break away for a second and talk a little bit about Reading's recycling program. If you don't live in Reading, double check with your local municipality about what you are about what you're supposed to collect in your recycling bin. In Reading, we talk about doing the big 5. So aluminum and steel cans, the aseptic cartons, glass bottles and jars, paper products, especially cardboard, newspaper, mixed paper, magazines, homework after it has been turned in and graded. And then of course, plastic containers, like from everything from those Cool Whip and margarine containers to our ICT and milk cartons, and our juice cartons. And if you notice with the recycling that everything is some sort of a container that should go into your bin. There's quite a few things that should never, ever, ever go into your bin. One of those is bags. And I'm sure, Matt, you can talk a little bit about why we don't bag our recyclables. And I did share a video earlier today on the Earth Day Berks site that shows how the Rube Goldberg machine of a MRF actually works, and all of the sorting gadgets and really cool instrumentation that kind of separates everything out. Make sure all of your containers are empty, clean, and dry. So no sticky peanut butter, no half full bottles of ketchup, things like that. Not only but does it make everything really messy, is that if food is a growth medium for bacteria, and you can potentially get somebody sick. And then of course, no clothing or linens, and no hoses, wires, chains, or electronics. Those are big no-nos, and a lot of those things can be recycled, just not in your blue bin. And in the city of Reading, we do have a grant. So if you need a blue bin, we will have one delivered to you. You just need to call the 877-727-3234 number, and we will have one delivered. And so other recycling resources for the city of Reading, you can look on our website. It's readingpa.gov/clean city. We do have the Recycle Coach app, which is really popular with a lot of our residents. So if you're not sure if something should go into the bin, you can actually look it up. And it will also send you reminders of like if it's a holiday schedule, or if we have like snowstorms and we have to delay collection for a day or two to keep our drivers safe, we can send you alerts. Reading Public Works also has a pretty active Facebook page, and we do a lot of recycling tips there. And if anybody has any questions or would like a field trip or a tour, or even one of us to come in to the classroom and have a chat with students or your church group, you can just email us at readingrecycles@readingpa.gov. Okay, so one of the other big recycling programs that we have in the city is we have tires and electronics recycling pickup from the front porch. No other municipality in Berks County does this. The nice thing about the city of Reading is we're very compact, so it's actually pretty easy for us to expedite those delivery routes. They do not belong in our recycling bins. They do not belong in our alleys. But if you have tires or electronics that need to be disposed of properly, please give us a call, and we'll come and pick them up. The county recycling program is pretty extensive as well, and they run a drop-off center that's located up in Leesport. And I would refer other people both in the city and in the county to go to the website for the Berks County Solid Waste Authority. And if you have questions, feel free to call. Jane is super nice, and she will try to help you out. So the contamination issues that we always find in our recycling. We've heard lots of stories recently about these huge bales that might be contaminated somehow. And some municipalities were or in regions of the country were shipping a lot of their material over to China. And then by the time it made it to China, it was all gross and they couldn't use it. So what kind of contamination issues do you guys face at Cougle's daily?
Well, I talked a little bit earlier about single stream and
Mhm.
the opportunity that it presents with allowing to have all of the recyclables in one bin. With that opportunity also comes some challenges. Some of the challenges are individuals that just put everything in the bin, including some of the contamination. Some of the other challenges are, in order to sort all those different materials out, there's a large amount of machinery that's needed and used in order to segregate those different materials. So going into the contamination, some of that contamination that you had referred to earlier creates a very big problem for the safety of our crew, for the continued operation of the equipment, and ultimately anything that's in there that's not recyclable. Our first priority and our first sorting station on the line is to try to pull that off. So just to think about it at home, anything that you put into that bin that's not recyclable, a person has to try to touch that and remove that. Because even with all the automation that's in the system, at this point, there's not a good means of automation for that front end to open the bags, if there is bags in there, to pull out the hoses and the lights and the metal, and some of those materials like the clothes, the electronics, those types of things that get put in there, they have to be pulled out manually. And at times they are missed, it can cause downtime and machinery damage. So ultimately, one of the things that we ask, and this is something that we've gone on a campaign over the past couple of years to try to let people know what is good and what is not good. Because there's I think a percentage of people that maybe just aren't really seeking the information, but I think many are trying to do the right thing and recycling as much as they can, but just maybe don't have the information and knowledge available on what's good and what is not good.
Yeah. And also the recycling symbol has been a little bit tricky too, because some products may be recyclable, like hypothetically, but we really don't have the infrastructure to recycle that product. I'm thinking of the styrofoam takeout containers. A lot of times you'll see the number 6 stamped on it in the recycling triangle, but it's not really recyclable. And those are just products that need to be avoided.
Yeah, that's a real good mention there, because there's many materials that ultimately are recyclable. Copper wire, pots and pans, the expanded polystyrene, they are recyclable in certain means, but they cannot be included in the curbside recycling.
Right.
Because ultimately there's not an infinite number of materials that we're able to sort out, and they can cross-contaminate other materials.
Yeah. And also, the other day, one of our recycling collectors, somebody dismantled their grill and put it in the recycling bin. And he called and he was like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm like, leave it behind and have them give us a call and we'll help them locate a scrapyard. But, somebody on the line at your facility would have gotten hurt if that would have ended up on the sorting line.
Yeah, and that's many times we find things like that sometimes make it to the truck, and sometimes the driver will screen them out before they do, which we appreciate. And something like a grill is absolutely recyclable. Again, as we mentioned, it's just not really a good way to recycle it in that recycling bin or in that curbside collection bin. So we're always glad to take someone that would like to bring something like that to our facility, but it's just in a different method.
Yeah.
And
So
I guess one thing just to mention,
Sure.
as far as the different method, the bags, and I know that we've all probably, or many of us at least, have heard a lot about the grocery bags. Beyond our request to not bag recyclable materials whenever possible, the grocery bags are something that we see in a plentiful number come through the recycling stream. And ultimately, what we do when we receive them is we dispose of them. And the reason being is because of all the material that it touches and gets in contact with, from glass to liquids to other types of streams of material like paper. And ultimately, it's a very recyclable material. And what we ask everyone to do with that is just to take it back to the store that they bought their groceries in. So basically, if it's Walmart or Weiss or Redner's or a numerous Target, a numerous number of others, they have those dispensers at the store entrance where you can just take your bags, place them in the dispenser, and then after they collect them, they come to a facility like ours, but they come in a source separated manner. So you're doing the right thing by recycling them, and ultimately not creating contamination and issues on the back end. Because if you throw them in your curbside collection bin, although you may think you're recycling them, you're really not, because we have to dispose of them when we get them at our facility.
Yeah. Yeah, the look for the bins for the plastic bags right at the front of the store. I am guilty of being really good about making sure I recycle my clean plastic bags. You don't want to necessarily put freezer bags that had like raw chicken in them, because again, you could make somebody sick. But I'm terrible about remembering to take the bag with me when I go to the store to recycle them, and then my husband gets mad at me. But I'm going to show the next picture, which is what the day looks like on the sorting floor. And facilities like yours, they're called material recovery facilities, and we call them MRFs, which is really cute. But this is probably 3 stories up. So about, 20, 30 feet tall of trash in a huge, huge area. And by the time you guys leave for the day, the floor is clear, correct? Pretty much.
Not every day, but that's our goal. That's definitely our goal.
Yeah, it's really incredible how much we put in our bins and then how much collectively it all goes together. So can you just kind of walk us through a little bit of how we get to this mess, to the baled product that goes out on tractor trailers, goes back to a manufacturer?
Absolutely. So when the material comes in, be it if it's from your curbside collection bin or a drop-off location like Berks County Solid Waste Authority, it comes in a similar form as you see on the picture. And ultimately, first we remove out any contamination. If there's bags, we open those bags up, which we prefer not to see. Then it goes on to getting out any rigid plastics that are large, and it goes over an OCC screen. So by screening sizing of material, the corrugated passes over the screen and all the rest of the material fall through. Then it goes to basically a glass break. So that breaks all of the glass and screens out any of the fines. And then the remaining material, all of the paper and containers, proceed to the next screen. That next screening station removes the newspaper from the remaining material. And then that remaining material goes to the next screen. So the newspaper then is put onto a sorting line that's quality controlled, sorted to be then baled and sold to make new newspaper or new insulation, things of that nature. The remaining material goes to a container screen, and that's separating the containers from the remaining paper. So all of the remaining paper proceeds over the screen. All of the containers either fall back or fall through the screen. Then that paper, which is considered mixed paper, which could be from office paper to junk mail, magazines, goes on to another quality control. That quality control then goes to a large bunker area that's fed onto a baler. All of the area and all the material in the paper area then is compacted in bales to about 2,000 pound cubes or 1 ton. The remaining containers go back to continue on to be sorted to all the different grades of containers. So all of the tin material is first removed. So that's by a big crossbelt magnet. So by an electromagnet is removing the tin out of the stream. Then it goes to a machine that basically optically sorts the material. Okay. So an optical sorter by reflection of light is identifying what type of plastic it is, and then with bursts of air are putting it into the correct bin. All right. So basically, as it goes over the belt, there's 3 categories that it could go in. So it could get ejected up, it could get ejected down, or pass. So through a series of these optical sorters, we're pulling out the PET, we're pulling out the HDPE natural, pulling out the HDPE colored, we're pulling out soon to come polypropylene and the aseptic cartons. Then the remaining material continues on down the path. After that material is pulled out, there's quality control for each of those streams that go into big bunker bins then. And the remaining plastic and aluminum cans go to what's called an eddy current. So an eddy current is a rare earth magnet. And what that does is that repels non-ferrous metal. So it actually throws the metal forward into the forward chamber of a separated bunker bin, and that goes for quality control sorting. The remaining plastic then continue on to basically what would be considered a 3 through 7 plastic bin, and then that can potentially be used for other sources. With some of the challenges that were mentioned earlier with the China market that had some issues, but we're seeing some of those markets come back for those remaining streams. But ultimately, it's a very small percentage when you look at the entire amount. So basically, we just went through, and what looks like to many a bunch of trash on the floor, which is recyclables, and we always try to be adamant in calling it that. But from all of those mixed recyclables, we have separated corrugated. That would go to a mill that would make new corrugated boxes or make different things such as mixed paper or box cutting. It would go to a paper mill or insulation manufacturer from the newspaper. The mixed paper would generally go to a paper mill that might make your cereal box or your 6-pack container or things of that nature. And then we have the aluminum cans that would go to a facility that would smelt that back into new aluminum product that would make things such as an aluminum wheel, or it could be a tin foil or things of that nature after that's smelted and converted into an end product. PET, which is a soda bottle, and the uses for PET have recently widened a bit. So many of the PET usage previously went into the carpet manufacturing. So many don't know, but some of your large carpet manufacturers are using PET as a large percentage of their feedstock. We also had some clothing. Actually, the sweatshirt I have on today is made out of recycled PET. Now, we also have the ability to return it back into make new bottles. So we have a facility right here in Reading, actually, that recently came, and they're actually taking some of the post-consumer PET and sorting it and processing it further and turning it into a pellet that would go to some of these area manufacturers, bottling water, bottling juice, soda, things of that nature, which is pretty amazing that we're taking an old bottle, or you look at that pile on the screen and it gets turned into a new bottle. The HDPE natural and HDPE colored, some of those you will see in products such as toys, piping, lumber. There's multiple uses that those things are turned into. Polypropylene is one that I mentioned. We're doing it installation now that we're going to allow that to be accepted in our stream. And one of the things that is made out of polypropylene that I can think of off the top of my head is like the paint can that you go when you buy paint at your hardware store, and many of those are made out of recycled polypropylene. So sort of gives you a little bit of a gamut on materials that come out of that stream and then that go to end uses that we use every single day. So when you're putting that material in the bin, what we ask is that you really try to be thoughtful on what goes in the bin. And if there's a doubt, maybe if you're not willing to find more information out, the best place may be in the trash bin, especially if there's food or some type of contamination that you're not willing to clean out. But if you're thoughtful about it and thinking that, hey, this is going to be an end product in the next maybe 30, 90, 60 days, something like that, it might have a little bit of a different spin on when you chuck that container in the bin.
Yeah. And speaking of reusing, a lot of us who work in the recycling field, we are always talking about the circular economy, which is different from our linear economy, which the circular economy considers the end of life use and disposal when it's designing a product, to make sure that it can be reused and recycled when people are done with it, where the linear economy kind of extracts our natural resources, produces consumption, and then goes into waste. So basically use it once, throw it away. And with the circular economy, we're really looking to design products well in the beginning, to use materials that are readily available as a recycled product, and then keep that process going for as long as we can. You had mentioned some of the different things that are made out of the recycling materials. And one of the really big ways that a circular economy works well is that everybody is close together. And in the Northeast, and especially in Berks County, we're really lucky. We have 2 recycling facilities in our county, and we have a lot of manufacturers who are right here who are using our recycled products. And so it's not having to travel really far, where a lot of other communities don't have that luxury. Thoughts, Matt?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very nice that we have an opportunity to have companies in the area that are supplying jobs, that are supplying products that are made out of recycled goods. Not only does it help support the community and help support the environmental effort, it also helps keep the cost of recycling to a reasonable amount. And one of the challenges that we've seen in the past with China, and some of the things some may have heard of as far as them stopping the flow of recycled products into their borders, really has been an impetus or a push for creating more manufacturing of these products here in the United States. And the unfortunate part is it was not very quick, because it was sort of I wouldn't say a sudden decision by China, but it was unanticipated. And it took a while to get some of these facilities ramped up. But I truly feel you're going to see more of that in the future. And it's really a nice thing to support a company that's using recycled feedstock, manufacturing here in the United States, and staying close to our footprint. So we don't have a lot of transportation costs. We don't have a lot of transportation as far as the emission standpoint, so it just makes really a lot of sense. And where, certain things are done better in scale, you need a huge facility that services an immense amount of area. I think there is some merit to having facilities that can service, a handful of communities. And I feel in the near future, we're going to be seeing more and more of that, going back to some of those roots.
Yeah, I agree. I think having more of a community focused with our waste management, but also our manufacturing needs, is a really great way to grow our local economies. And so we were talking a little bit about the markets and, the soda can going into the airplane parts and bicycles and things like that. But one of the big things is that we can do as consumers, and both at home and in our workplaces, is look for that recycled content in our purchasing, making sure that the packaging that our food products comes in is actually recyclable, making sure that we're looking to focus on purchasing recycled content when we're doing some bigger purchases as well. And one of the big things that we can do is simply ask the person or the manufacturer, the company that we're looking to buy that product from, is, well, how much of the feedstock that you used was made out of recycled material. It doesn't have to be the only decision, but it's definitely something to have in consideration. And more companies, if they're asked if they're building with recycled materials, are going to start buying the recycled feedstock to make their bottom lines more sustainable as well.
I guess just to add to that, Bethany, one of the things that I think as a consumer you must be aware of is that not all companies are the same as far as how they report and their terms for using recycled. So a little bit of research and a little bit of understanding can go a long way in that area. There is certain companies now, some of the larger ones such as Walmart and Target, that are actually doing an environmental scorecard, or scorecard, but includes the environmental piece of it, which is, okay, how much recyclables do you use in your product? Is your product recyclable? What's your carbon footprint? Those types of things. But some of that information now is being more made readily available. And I think a big piece of it as well, if we're going out to buy recycled material, that we're also keeping in mind that end of life on the product, because that's really what the key is to making that circular economy there, is making sure that it gets put back into the system in the proper way and can get turned back into a new product again.
Yeah. And making sure that it's easy to recycle, that the components are easy to separate from each other. Bill, I can't see the live stream, so do we have any questions that we need to address before we close out?
Not that I'm aware of at this point.
Okay, that's all right. Well, I want to, we're actually ending a little bit early today, but we started a little bit early too. Do you have anything else you'd like to share about the recycling industry? And right now I'm asking all of the people I'm talking to, are you hiring?
Yeah, that's a great lead in there. I think one of the things that I'd like to share is that I just appreciate everyone's time that has taken the time to watch the program and to try to understand a little bit more about it. Hopefully we were able to relay some information that was useful and maybe new. With regards to what we do every day as far as trying to help the environment, and here, providing a source for those materials to come, we would be glad to have some candidates that are interested in that area as employees. We have a lot of long-term employees, and when you think about recycling, there are a whole gamut of different opportunities, from drivers to equipment operators to sorters to administrative positions. So we have a bunch of different opportunities available, and we're really passionate about what we do, and we have a great team that's also passionate about what they do, and part of that has to do with sort of supporting the local community, but also supporting the environment. And we're excited about what's to come in the future in that regard, as we're seeing better technology in facilities like ours We're seeing more infrastructure built, as we talked about earlier in the program. And I really think that there's a bright future, but we really do need everyone's assistance, because the source starts at every home. And the more that we can help educate, help communicate with each and every individual home, each and every individual person, it really makes a difference. So it makes a difference for our facility, but it makes a difference for the entire program. The costs that go to the city, just all of the little aspects that add up to what recycling and waste removal is at your doorstep.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching today, and this program will be available on our YouTube channel for Earth Day Berks. It will also be shared to the Public Works YouTube channel, which is Reading, PA Public Works. And if anybody has any questions about Reading's waste management and recycling programs or our other Clean City initiatives, please give us an email or give us a call. Our website is www.readingpa.gov/clean city, which has all kinds of information about our recycling programs, street sweeping, commercial recycling, all kinds of information for our residents and business owners. And to contact Cougles, they have a wonderful website with really cool videos and resources, including the recycling audits that you offer, especially for businesses. That can be an excellent way to reduce your waste management costs and also increase your recycling. Can you give me just like a little 30-second blurb about what a recycling audit is?
Absolutely. A recycling audit would be more tailored for some type of business. And we could come to your facility, look at the different streams or your process, and make some recommendations. And we have programs tailored to multiple different sizes, from a small convenience store to a very large warehousing and distribution, and sort of the whole gamut in between. So glad to help out if someone is looking for some feedback or looking for some suggestions. We're always glad to help.
Yes, and for residents who might be interested in doing some recycling audits of their own waste, we do have information available on the website under educational materials. It's actually a fun science project to do with your kids, and then to figure out how, pick one thing to reduce and how can we recycle better. Highly recommend. So I want to say happy Earth Day to everybody, and thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next session. So have a great afternoon. Time for a potty break, grab a beverage. There's a lot of more interesting programs coming up. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.